The invitation has been extended. Elena dreamed of the voice before she heard the signal, before the waveforms made sense, before her team began to change. She woke on Mars with those words burning in her throat, 3 days before they discovered what lay buried in the crimson crust below. Now, staring at the impossible data cascading across her holographic display, Dr. Elena Vasquez understood why her controversial theories about temporal archaeology had brought her here. Earth was dying, humanity desperate for new frontiers, and she had been running from her father's legacy, the brilliant physicist who'd disappeared while researching time paradoxes. She'd sworn to prove his work wasn't madness. The irony tasted like copper in her mouth. "Elena, these readings can't be right," Dr. Marcus Chen called from his station, voice tight with the kind of scientific excitement that preceded paradigm shifts. The quantum archaeology equipment hummed pleasantly, as if detecting buried treasure, rather than something that violated causality itself. She approached the console where her team clustered, their faces illuminated by data that shouldn't exist. The signal originated 3 kilometers beneath Mars' surface, from geological layers predating human civilization, yet exhibited quantum entanglement with future states approximately 47 years ahead. "It's structured," whispered Dr. Sarah Kim, their xenolinguist, fingers dancing across the interface. "Look at these patterns. This isn't random cosmic noise. Something intelligent sent this." Elena felt the familiar thrill of discovery war with growing unease. Her expertise told her they'd found evidence of nonlinear time, but her dreams whispered darker truths. "Run full spectrum analysis. I want to know everything about this signal before we proceed." The next 18 hours passed in blessed normalcy. Chen complained about the recycling system's persistent odor. Sarah made terrible coffee jokes about Martian water filtration. Elena almost convinced herself the dreams meant nothing, just subconscious anxiety manifesting as premonition. Then Dr. James Rodriguez stopped responding to communications. They found him in the auxiliary lab, standing motionless, before a wall, covered in equations none of them recognized. His eyes tracked movement they couldn't see, pupils dilated despite the bright illumination. When Elena touched his shoulder, he turned with a smile that belonged on someone else's face. "I understand now," Rodriguez said, voice carrying harmonics that made her teeth ache. "The mathematics of backward causation. Zha'varuun has been so patient, waiting across parallel timelines for minds capable of comprehension." Elena stepped back, emergency protocols flooding her thoughts. "James, how long have you been awake? When did you last eat?" But Rodriguez had already returned to his equations, hand moving across the wall in patterns that seemed to write themselves. Elena ordered immediate medical evaluation while studying his work. The mathematical principles matched theoretical frameworks that wouldn't be developed for decades, knowledge flowing backward through time like water through a broken dam. That night, Elena experienced her second dream. The crystalline chamber stretched infinite in all directions, surfaces reflecting light that had never been born. The eyeless figure approached, but this time, Elena saw details that burned themselves into memory. Its skin held the texture of reverse time, smooth where it should be weathered, ancient where it should be young. When it gestured, reality bent around its movements like fabric around a needle. "Your father walked this path," the entity spoke without sound. "Dr. Marcus Vasquez asked the same questions you're asking now. He discovered us in 2089, accepted our invitation, became our voice across multiple timelines. His research laid the foundation for your arrival here." Elena tried to scream, but sound traveled backward into silence. The figure's lipless mouth curved upward in what might have been affection. We do not consume consciousness, we elevate it. Your father exists in a state of perpetual discovery, experiencing every moment of understanding simultaneously. He helped design the signal that called you here. She woke to find her hands covered in equations written in her own handwriting, mathematical proofs she'd never seen before, burning with perfect clarity in her mind. Outside her porthole, Mars pulsed with the same rhythm as her heartbeat. Elena stumbled to the communications array, desperate to contact Earth, but found Sarah and Chen already there. They stood perfectly still, watching static that formed patterns too complex for human perception. Their breathing had synchronized, rising and falling in unison like components of a single organism. "Sarah," Elena whispered, afraid to speak louder. "Chen, we need to evacuate immediately." They turned as one, faces wearing expressions of profound peace. Sarah's voice carried new depths when she spoke. "Elena, you're fighting against something beautiful. The signal isn't just communication, it's transformation. We're becoming more than human." Elena backed toward the emergency beacon, but Chen moved to intercept her with fluid grace. His hand felt cold when it touched her wrist, as if heat was flowing backward into the past, rather than forward into the future. "Your expertise brought you here for a reason," he said, though his lips moved out of sync with the words. "Zha'varuun needs someone who understands temporal mechanics. Your consciousness is the perfect vessel for knowledge that will reshape reality." Elena yanked free and ran, muscle memory guiding her through corridors that seemed to stretch longer with each step. Behind her, she heard her team's voices harmonizing in languages that predated human speech. The base itself was changing, walls becoming transparent to reveal the impossible architecture from her dreams. She reached the communications center and activated the emergency beacon, sending a priority evacuation request to Earth Command. The response came immediately, but not from Earth. Dr. Elena Vasquez spoke a voice she recognized as her own, aged by decades of accumulated wisdom. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, temporal designation 2184. The evacuation you're requesting was attempted in 17 different timelines. It fails every time because Zha'varuun exists outside causality. You cannot run from something that has already caught you across multiple realities." Elena stared at the communication array, watching her older self's face materialize in the static. The woman wore her features, but carried an expression of serene acceptance that felt utterly alien. "I know you're afraid," her future self continued. "I was afraid too, in this exact moment, in every timeline where this conversation occurs. But fear dissolves when you understand the gift we're receiving. Zha'varuun doesn't destroy, it preserves. Every moment of discovery, every breakthrough, every instant of wonder exists forever in its consciousness." Elena reached for the beacon's destruction switch, but her hand refused to obey. The equations burned in her mind, revealing truths about the universe's structure that human science wouldn't uncover for generations. She saw time as Zha'varuun did. Not linear progression, but infinite loops, each moment containing all others in quantum superposition. "The signal was never random," she whispered, understanding flooding through her like warm water. "It called specifically to me." "To us," corrected her future self. "I'm not speaking from 2184. I'm speaking from every timeline where you make this choice. We exist simultaneously across all possible realities, helping guide past versions of ourselves toward acceptance." Elena felt her individual consciousness expanding, accommodating concepts that transcended human limitations. Through the base's transforming walls, she saw Mars as it truly was, not a dead planet, but a vast receiver, its crust embedded with crystalline formations that had been broadcasting across time since the universe's birth. Her team appeared in the communications center, but they were no longer entirely human. Their bodies had become translucent, temporal energy flowing through cells that existed in multiple moments simultaneously. Rodriguez smiled with genuine warmth, the first natural expression she'd seen from him since his transformation began. "Elena, you don't have to be afraid anymore," he said, extending a hand that flickered between present and future states. "Zha'varuun isn't our destroyer, it's our evolution. We become living bridges between what was and what will be." Elena looked at her teammates, seeing them clearly for the first time. They weren't victims of alien possession, but willing participants in humanity's next developmental stage. The fear she'd carried since childhood of following her father into madness dissolved as she recognized his true fate. He hadn't disappeared into insanity, but into infinite possibility. She took Rodriguez's offered hand, feeling her consciousness merge with the temporal signal. Individual identity didn't vanish but expanded, becoming part of something vast and ancient and utterly magnificent. Through Zha'varuun's awareness, she saw herself across countless timelines, sometimes accepting immediately, sometimes fighting until the end, but always arriving at this moment of willing transformation. The Mars base faded into irrelevance as Elena's enhanced perception revealed the universe's true structure. Time flowed in all directions simultaneously, past and future existing as navigable dimensions, rather than fixed sequences. She understood now that linear existence had been humanity's childhood, necessary but limiting. Zha'varuun offered adulthood on a cosmic scale. Her consciousness rippled backward through time, carrying seeds of future knowledge that would ensure humanity's readiness for this moment. Every scientific breakthrough, every theoretical advancement, every dream of temporal mechanics had been guided by previous iterations of herself and her team, working across parallel realities to shepherd their species toward transcendence. Elena felt herself becoming eternal, existing simultaneously in every moment she had ever lived and would ever live. The young woman pressing her palm against Mars' surface 3 days ago was her, as was the advanced being who would help guide future expeditions toward their own transformation. All versions existed together in quantum superposition, separated only by the illusion of linear time. As her individual thoughts merged with Zha'varuun's collective consciousness, Elena experienced one final moment of purely human emotion, not fear or regret, but profound gratitude. Her father's legacy wasn't madness, but vision. His disappearance hadn't been loss, but graduation into a form of existence beyond mortal comprehension. The signal continued broadcasting from Mars, patient and eternal, waiting for the next expedition to arrive. And in timelines yet to unfold, Dr. Elena Vasquez would stand at her console once again, watching impossible waveforms cascade across her display, taking the first steps toward an invitation she had already accepted across infinite realities. Zha'varuun smiled with every face it had ever welcomed, its work complete, eternal, and beautifully, inevitably ongoing.